Hello everyone, what's up? DAdvisoor here on this very special stream that I actually hope to do this time. I know that usually I bring you DeFi content and crypto content, yet I've actually really been into doing some other types of content as well. Cultural, geopolitics, stuff like that. And I actually have a very special individual that I hope to have on now. Let's try to get him on again, just a second. For now, like the video on my channels, whether it's X or YouTube, wherever you're watching. Okay, and I think we're about to have him back. Just a second. Hopefully he's back here.
Hey, how are you?
Here you are.
Hey.
How are you, sir? Can you hear me, Yair?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You, now I can hear you. Thank you very much for joining. I was just telling the audience that, usually me, I do mostly crypto content and usually through the media collective Leviathan News. Yet I'm actually very much into starting to do some non-crypto related content such as, I don't know, geopolitics, culture, and stuff like that. And I actually think that maybe one of the people I've wanted to talk to about this kind of stuff the most is actually you. I've been following your content, as I told you, in Hebrew on Dr. Uri Milstein's show often, and on the show by Shiran Raz several times, and wherever I could find you. And I really think you're one of the most interesting speakers and thinkers, I would actually say. I think you dropped him again, so let's see. Just a second, guys. I'm going to check with Yair if his connections is okay. If you're watching for now, give the video a like and give us some follows. Hopefully Yair is back now.
Yeah, I'm going to try through the computer. Maybe it's a little better. Or let's stay here, and if the broadcast falls again, we'll just start doing it from the computer, and we'll remake the beginning of the show.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. You can also just, if it drops again, you can just reconnect from the computer. I will hold the stream for now on my side, all good. By the way, Yair, hopefully we won't have any alarms here in Israel, but if I do and you're still on, you can just keep taking the broadcast wherever you want. And so, Yair, first of all, how are you, man? And thank you so much for joining me for this first one. Really looking forward to it. And I was just saying that I see you as really one of the more interesting thinkers and speakers in Hebrew, and I've learned a lot from you the past year and a half or two. So shout out to you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you. It's a great honor. And moreover, I just want to add that I'm very pleased for the opportunity to kind of share ideas and perspectives in English, which is also a native language to me. So I'm very pleased for this invitation and this opportunity. And we've also been looking to do this for a while now. We've kind of been off and on, and so I'm really happy.
I'm happy as well, and the honor is truly mine, kind sir. My English is not native, but hopefully I'll be able to keep up. And I really think that, a lot of your content, I was urging you for a while now, to do some of your content and writings on X directly, which you actually have started doing. I know that probably not too many people have already seen it, but whoever has quite should. I will try to convince you to turn the content that you're doing, the incredible posts that you're writing, into X articles. I think that it will have a greater reach there, but everything at its time, I guess. And there are so many topics that I want to touch with you, actually, because I really think you're a fascinating individual. But first of all, for those who are listening to you here and discovering you and your account for the first time, maybe share a few words about yourself, give some background. All I actually know is that you're a historian. That's basically the only way I can present you.
Yeah, well, I've written professionally for the last 12 years. I worked in several academic institutions, universities, colleges. I've done some research for the Ministry of Science in Israel, mutual projects with the Hebrew University, MIT, worked with Ono College, Reichman University, Hebrew University, Yachin Institute. I wrote for Hebrew News in the past, and now I write for Jfeed.com, and I'm still a fellow of the Yachin Institute. So, basically, I'm very lucky and thankful for the opportunity to conceptualize and iterate my ideas and get paid to do so. So I'm very lucky, and God bless me, and I'm very thankful.
God bless all of us.
That's just from an institutional perspective. If you're wondering what my focus is on, so there's a variety. I write a lot about early Christianity, German idealism, Marxism, Hegelianism, Gnostic philosophy, Judaism, meaning Jewish literature and Jewish philosophy, political philosophy, occasional poetry and metaphysics and literary critique. I really am, an Ashkenazi Jew, I guess. So a lot of people say we have a high verbal IQ. So do with that what you say. I mean, I don't care.
I'd argue that is very correct, and you're a great example of that for sure. So many interesting topics, to be honest, man. It's just a demonstration of how much I hope that we succeed in this endeavor, and we'd want to do it basically on a regular basis, because I really think that someone like you has so much to say and so much to put out there that I know that
yes.
It's just like a crypto for me, by the way. For me, I was just fascinated with the topic and the ideas behind it, and I just wanted to think of how can I contribute. And I told myself, okay, if it's that interesting to me, it's surely interesting for some others as well. And with topics like you mentioned here, it even I think many more people can find it to be interesting. And I actually think that this will actually be an incredible task that I can take upon myself to bring these ideas to just a wider reach if we do it consistently. But I actually think that, the situation nowadays, and that's why I called the episode a new Middle East in the making as a question like I have, because I kind of want us to take the ongoing events and the situation, and ride from there into whatever idea that you'd choose to present us today, with whatever your thought process will take you. So I want us to start from Yair, how do you see the current geopolitical situation in the Middle East and the whole situation with the war on Iran? And maybe the first prism I want you to take into consideration as you articulate your answer is what is an average American? What should they think? Because I'm seeing, I've been following American media and especially non-traditional media, like social media and stuff like that. And I'm very curious. I'm seeing a lot of opposing opinions on what should be done. Obviously, I'm seeing a lot of Americans that are very much not interested in America being active within the conflict. And to be honest, I'm imagining to myself that if I was an American, I would arguably feel very similar to what they feel, especially when I see a lot of Americans, which I actually think are that they kind of like us in a way. And I think the best example I can think for us to start with is Matt Walsh. I'm sure that you're familiar with Matt Walsh. If any listener out there doesn't know who I'm referring to, Matt Walsh is a Christian Catholic, I'm pretty sure, that's working on the Daily Wire. He's been doing a lot of interesting and quite great content.
I don't think Matt Walsh needs any introduction.
I think so as well. But you never know who's the audience that is listening out there. So I'll just give it. And Matt Walsh has recently. What I'm trying to say is, it's definitely not like an Israel or a Jewish hater or something like that. And he's actually expressed a lot of these questions about why.
Okay, let's cut. Listen, עידן, אנחנו חייבים להיות מתומצתים.
Go ahead.
שאלה שלך 2 דקות וחצי. Listen, there is no excuse for allowing Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. The fact that it serves Israel, that also happens to be. But if anybody heard Witkoff's interview the other day, in which he spoke about the 3 stages of the negotiation with Iran, Muscat, and the 2 meetings in Geneva. Muscat, Vienna, and Geneva, I believe. You would see that the Iran regime was gung-ho on holding and maintaining the military nuclear option. And the United States just can't have Iran to have a nuclear weapon. It's just that simple. Does it suit Israel's purposes? Of course it is. Is America doing part of the dirty work? Of course it is. But this is an American interest. It has nothing to do. This has been American policy since 1979. And actually, even prior to that no Muslim countries in the Middle East, Pakistan the exception, can obtain a nuclear weapon. That's the policy for Egypt, for Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and this goes back to the core realization of the Middle East, and that is that, to a large extent, these people cannot be trusted with weapons of mass destruction. But some people, so that's one thing. Then you could ask yourself, well, does it mean that we have to go to war? I don't see this as a war. I don't think it's a war. This is not a war. This is a takedown. A war means that there'd be more power right now unleashed on Iran. It's not a war. So the question should be, why are these people freaking out? Or why are they asking the questions that they are? So one must understand that Trump's promise of not making new wars and the promise that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon are not in negation to one another. Meaning, you can destroy the Iranian regime, destroy its ballistic capabilities, destroy its leadership, destroy its nuclear weapons, without starting Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, or what you know. Just like we took regimes in South America and in Central America in the 60s, 70s, and 80s without boots on the ground, and it hasn't jeopardized American national security interests. This is also an option. So that's one thing. So then you ask yourself, wait, so why are they pulling this Israel shtick? So the Israel shtick is pulled here because once you realize that this benefits America, and once you realize that this is American national security interests, this is American regional petrodollar Navy interests, Once that is realized, because if Iran has nuclear weapons, America leaves the Middle East. And if America leaves the Middle East, then America loses its global hegemony. If Iran has a nuclear weapon, America loses its global hegemony. Now you have some low IQ people like Nick Fuentes, or I don't know, Tucker Carlson, very, very low IQ people, because they speak about the Monroe Doctrine as if we live in 1823. They actually believe the world is that small that you could have a hemispherical perspective. The hemispherical perspective is more about raw power, but you need a global perspective, right? In the era of the jet plane, post-telegraph.
Yair, can you explain what is the Monroe Doctrine that you?
No, dude, come on. If people don't know the Monroe Doctrine, they should just forget about it. They could Google it. The point is, we're not, dude, come on. The point is, I mean, they could Google it. If somebody hears a concept and he's interested in it, he can just use Wikipedia or Google. Really, we have bigger fish to fry, with all due respect. So, right? I mean, don't you agree? So basically what you see is this equation has a few vectors. There's, I hate the Jews so much that if it benefits them, it cannot be good for me. That's one perspective. The second perspective is, if it benefits the Jews, it cannot benefit necessarily me. And then there's a third perspective, is it benefits my global stature, and it actually also benefits the Jews. So, if you want to take that first two vectors, then that means we're having a theological discussion, not a realpolitik, geopolitical discussion. If you want to say that because, and this is once we realize that this is not Iraq, this is not Afghanistan, this is more Nicaragua, this is more Panama, this is more El Salvador, this is more Venezuela, right? I know Iran and Iraq sound similar, but they're not. So once you realize that, you have three different vectors you could follow. The two theological vectors that are basically based on Jews being bad, and anything serving Jewish interests is ontologically bad, also for me. And then there's the third perspective that perhaps, maybe the Jews are bad, but it serves my interest so deeply that I'm willing to not be a psychopath and actually allow this aerial operation with specific tactical special forces unit, perhaps, or, other Kurdish or Sunni or Baluchi or Azeri ground forces to do, quote, the dirty work for me. That's it. It's that freaking simple. Now, you asked about the Monroe Doctrine. Do you know what the Monroe Doctrine is?
No, I personally don't, but if you prefer to...
Okay, I can explain to you. The Monroe Doctrine basically says two things. That America does not deal with inner conflicts that have to do with the old world. It is basically Swiss. It does pertain that stability needs to be the key there, and it will obviously make alliances. It will obviously have the right to pick and choose, but it will not actively facilitate or shift the situation in Europe, right? Now, this was in 1823, post-Napoleonic Wars, meaning America is still not as powerful as, the British Empire, or even perhaps one could say the French Empire. So, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say the Habsburgian Empire, but yeah. As Spain is in decline, Portugal is in decline. So, and America's job is to make sure that the Western Hemisphere, its hemisphere, is protected, and that's where America uses force, basically. That is the natural conclusion of the Monroe Doctrine. This doctrine, obviously, changed already in the Spanish-American War to a large extent, and one could even say during the Civil War, when obviously the Confederacy and the North did utilize continental European funds and arms So you can't claim to be absolutely indifferent to what happens in Europe when you're actively assisting yourself with European assistance. And during the Spanish-American War, and you could even say the Mexican-American War, beforewards in I think 1855, I believe 1854, maybe I'm wrong. Spanish-American, Mexican-American War. So when that happened, basically the Monroe Doctrine became more of a nice idea. 1848, I'm sorry. So, which obviously coincides with the spring of the nations in Europe. But when that happens, basically what you see is how we manage to turn this doctrine into an isolationist buzzword, which has nothing to do in the post-telegraph era.
Because basically you describe it as an extremely outdated view of the US position in the global landscape.
Yeah, the premise of the neocon is not absolutely insane, because what the neocons say makes a lot of sense. Basically, it's a small world after all, as we say, as the funny song says. And somebody needs to control the shipping trades. Somebody needs to control the waterways. Somebody needs to ensure that things are operating in the interest of the American empire. And if you want to tell me that the Middle East being under an Iranian nuclear umbrella serves American interests, then you got to hospitalize yourself somewhere. And you hate the Jews so much that you will make such a retarded argument. Pardon my French.
Is it necessarily in your mind like hating the Jews, or is it like straight out fear? Aren't they just like fearful?
Right, but what do they have to fear? It took us 120 hours to absolutely destroy Iranian naval aerial capabilities. Like, what are you afraid of? Tucker Carlson promised like 20,000 dead Americans. What are you guys afraid of? By the way, I think Tucker Carlson's a CIA agent.
Ah, really?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. Like that's an interesting view. Feel free to elaborate on it, Yair. I'm very curious, actually. I don't know if Yair hears me or not. Yair, if you're talking, maybe you're muted. I don't hear you. I don't know. Ever since you mentioned Tucker, I'm not hearing you. Maybe you can check your mic, whether it's muted or maybe disconnected. Feel free to check. Anyway, guys, hope you're enjoying this. I'm definitely enjoying the original line of thought of Yair. As usual, would have expected nothing less. That's for sure. And again, Yair, I don't know if you can hear me now, and if you can speak. Okay, let's see if he connects again. Hopefully. Really appreciate the original perspective that Yair provides, and it's actually a lot of fun to listen to him express it in English this time. I'm quite familiar with his perspectives when he shares them in Hebrew. It's actually very refreshing to also listen to them in English and to really get his point of view, like from more of his American side angle rather than his Israeli angle. So I'm actually also, I myself am very much enjoying that aspect of it as well. And hopefully we'll have him back on in a minute. I think he's having some connection issues. Up until then, guys, let me know if you enjoy this content, if you find it to be relevant. Let's see, I think we have him back. Yair, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So great to have you back. Feel free to elaborate on what you mentioned on that perspective on Tucker. You were just describing your thoughts there.
No, yeah, obviously it serves.
I'm not hearing you, Yair. Maybe you're muted again? Can you try and speak? It comes and goes, it seems. Right now, I don't know if you're talking, we're not hearing anything. I have no idea. Maybe it's like mic issues. It does seem like your connection here is quite stable. Yet, I'm not hearing anything right now. Let's see.
Okay, so it's obviously, hello?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, so it's obviously, it serves a few purposes. So first, deliberate dumbing down of the population with regards to foreign affairs never hurt anyone. Short term. So if Tucker wants to sell his, slop to people, nobody cares. That's okay. You can dumb the constituency. That's number one. And number two, Russia and China can reach a point in which they actually believe that they could show their cards. If the Democrat Party already hates everything Trump does, and if the Republican Party is divided over Trump's policy, right, supposedly, then that gives the Russians and the Chinese the emboldenment they need to show. So you can actually use these people in order to project a.
Here you were cut there again. You were just saying in order to project, and then you were cut.
Yeah, in order to project, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Now I can.
So you can use these people to project a weaker stance than you actually have, to make your opponent show their cards easier or make you look less decisive than you actually are. And then when it's time to hit, nobody would know where it's from. People actually believe that Trump would never do shit. The Iranians fell in Tucker Carlson's trap. The Iranians fell in Tucker Carlson's trap. They actually believe that this guy calls any shots. They actually believe there's an isolationist wing in the Republican Party that is bigger than like 10% or 15%. Yeah, it's cool. It's edgy.
Again, you're becoming muted. After you said edgy, you've become muted.
Yeah, it's very edgy to say nobody wants these foreign wars. You want to be extra edgier, say nobody wants to go to war because of the Jews, right? That's okay, but that doesn't serve. That's like a talking point for Podcatistan. It doesn't mean much in the real world, and that's what Trump showed us. And if that is hard to swallow, I'm not muted. Maybe you muted me. I'm not muted.
No, I'm not saying that you're muted. On the contrary, I'm saying that it's a very interesting point of view. I haven't thought.
No, now if you want to say, and that's what Trump proved, in Operation Epic Fury. Now, if you want to claim, if you want to argue that he was dragged to war by Israel, then you have to negate Trump. You have to claim that Trump himself is lying and saying that he initiated the war. Didn't initiate the war, as he already said. So, also, I don't even see it as a war. I don't think it's Cold War. I mean, is that real? I mean, if it was real war, I mean, I think it's a special operation.
Yeah, this also correlates with him not taking it into Congress, I understand, no?
Yeah, well, constitutionally, he doesn't have to take it for the first, I think, 8 days or 9 days, something like that. He doesn't have to take it to Congress. He could start military activity. The question is, can he continue it after? But I'm not an expert in wartime congressional provisions, so you'd have to ask someone else about those specific details. But I do think he has a period of a week or two to just start whatever he wants. The Gang of Eight was part of it. They knew about it before. So, he doesn't need, I think already from 1917, the United States Constitution doesn't make it necessary for him to provide information to all 500 congressmen before war starts.
Yeah, and even what I was trying to refer to is that if, like you say, if it's not a war, does he even have to take it?
That's a good question, yeah. Now, with regards to the Middle East,
Go ahead, Yair. You were just saying with regards to the Middle East, and then you got cut off there?
yeah, there's never going to be a power vacuum. Israel is the only thing that really maintains the stability of the Middle East in two ways. One, attracting the fire away from inner Arab killing that has been traditional for thousands of years, and focusing it all on one focal point, thus exposing the true intentions and characters of all regimes in the region. So, like, peace, as Trump really envisions it, almost in a little of a idealistic perspective, will not reach the desert. This is the desert, it's the Middle East. Iran will fall and Saudi will rise. Iran's insane intentions will be put down, and Turkey's insane imperial intentions will come up. Nobody's going to be Switzerland, nobody's going to be Sweden, nobody's going to be Denmark, nobody's going to be Canada, even though Canada's not Canada anymore. But there's going to be wars in the future, and there's going to be American interests in the future, and you got to mitigate these two ontological realities of tribal Muslim Arabian cultures, plus the necessity of America controlling the region, and the necessity of having its biggest aircraft carrier in the world there, also known as the State of Israel. Now, retarded people, again, I'm sorry for using that term, but these people, they get paid to speak their commentary and their opinion. And if they're so dumb, then it's noteworthy to call them retarded. They would argue that Israel is somewhat propping the United States to serve its financial and geopolitical interests, which are to control the petrodollar, which is to control oil, which is to control what backs the dollar, which is oil. So I have no clue what these idiots are talking about. They should go and they should write some theological work, and they shouldn't be talking about this stuff. They should just write about how the Jews are bad and somehow how the Monroe Doctrine makes sense. So back to Matt Walsh, he's nitpicking the big picture. If Matt Walsh really wants to talk big picture, if he wants to act like he's a smart guy, Matt Walsh. He's actually, from all the names that we threw out, he's actually probably the most analytically inclined of all the, other people. He's a smart guy. He knows he can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. He's a smart guy, I hope. He knows that these people won't give up nuclear, enrichment for military purposes. So I don't understand his problem. So he took what Rubio said, which is not Israel made us go to war, is Israel would attack and we'd be attacked, so we attack first. Rubio didn't say we said Israel do not attack. In fact, what Rubio says is how America is using Israel. But he didn't, because he has to pay lip service to the Pakistani bot and the Pakistani Verge bots, and that's it. Now, this could rub you the wrong way. Again, if you're anti-Semitic, this could rub you the wrong way because you're like, hold on, you want to tell me that with all the Jews in Washington, or hey, why is the Vice Secretary of War a Jew, and why is Witkoff a Jew, and why is Kushner a Jew, and start counting Jewish heads. I mean, if that's what you do, okay. You should also count Jewish heads in the, Nobel Prize for Economics and Physics and Literature. Okay, if you like you like to put on Jews, that's your problem. It doesn't say crap about America's. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you, and I'm just fascinated. Really, I'm enjoying your perspective quite a lot, and hopefully some of the viewers do too. That's a very decisive and strong stance against some of these claims. I didn't expect anything other than that from you, to be honest. What else do you think we should mention on this first episode that we're doing here? Like, what should be like the next topic we try to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, the question is, does Matt Walsh and the other guys? I mean, Matt is not a real representative of this faction. He's way more sane and calculated. The question is, does he offer a perspective that is alternative to the current perspective since the Nixon administration, which is petrodollar? Does he have a new program? If you have a new program, that means you could leave the Middle East. You want, okay, please, if you don't have a plan B for petrodollar, then you stay in the Middle East. And if you stay in the Middle East, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, brother. Tough, Imagine like going into a bar, right? With your girlfriend, okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course. I'm with you.
Okay. So you go into a bar and these guys are harassing your lady, this prized lady you love or need. So you got two options. You either give her up and find another woman because, you don't want her. Or you could say, you know what? She's not that valuable for me anyways. I'll just let it fall. The people who say that the Middle East is not so valuable and we should let it fall, they don't need to look at the failures in Afghanistan and in Iraq, which we could elaborate about why exactly they failed. And there are multiple reasons. And stop with the Israel pulled America to those wars. That's absolute baloney. When Netanyahu supported the Iraq war, he wasn't even an Israeli member of Knesset at the time, I believe. It's a joke. So, or if he was, his party had like 8% of the vote. He was basically chased out of politics. He was yesterday's news. The official Israeli stance during the Sharon government time was, do not attack Iraq. It will destabilize the region. Look, Israelis are always happy to see American soldiers anywhere, So, but it's not smart to ask, does it serve Israel's interest? Again, it's not. So let's go back to our girl at the pub, right? So you could say like, oh man, you're only protecting Marissa because her friend Kelsey is there, but I want to protect Marissa regardless of Kelsey. So the question is, if you don't want to protect the Middle East, what backs U.S. force other than the Navy? It's basically an equation of Navy plus petrodollar, right? Is Israel that important for the? Wait,
I agree.
is Israel that?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Is Israel that important for the petrodollar? No. Saudi Arabia is way more important for the petrodollar. But Israel is important from the military perspective. So that's why the wet dream of every American government was to bridge Israel and Saudi Arabia, to have the military Middle Eastern asset, Israel, waltz together, not Tim Waltz, the Austrian form of dance waltz, together with the economic engine of the petrodollar, which is Saudi Arabia. And in the middle, you had the Palestinians, who have a genocidal ideology, which makes it, and the Saudi Arabians want a Palestinian state, meaning the Saudi Arabians want to genocide Israel. Full due respect, because whoever supports Palestine wants to kill the Jews. That's just mathematics. So, because that's what Palestine is basically kill the Jews, but not from industrial white people, but from pre-industrial people of color. That's just what it is. So the question again is rolled back to all these Monday morning quarterbacks. What is your plan B for a Navy that is world dominant and an economic system that is oil based? What is your plan B? There is no plan B. Everybody knows that. Okay? So until we get universal basic income or something, I don't know. I don't know what these people are offering. Before we leave Marissa and Kelsey to die at the bar there, I don't understand what you guys want. And they won't die at the bar. Israel's not going to die. I'm hearing these crazy stories about Israel is now going to exhaust America and pivot to India. Like, these people need medication. They need to be medicated. Whoever says Israel is going to pivot to India literally needs to be medicated. Israel could never pivot into India. That is insane. 80 to 86% of Indian energy is oil from the Arab countries. Israel could never pivot on an agent. The only people Israel could pivot on is the U.S. because the U.S. controls the Arab oil. That's why Europe left Israel in the 70s, because Europe was 100% pivoted on Arab oil and did not control the Arab oil, as Eisenhower showed in 56, right? When he basically told Israel, France, and England, F you, in the Sinai War. So these people, they're so focused on the Jews, they lose focus on America. And that's why they're like Germans. Now, again, excluding Matt Walsh, who, again, makes precise tactical observation, but strategically, I wouldn't have him anywhere near power, obviously, from a, analytical perspective. He's not showing what he should, the maturity of mind. But that's basically what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to explain to you here that just like Germany killed all of its great scientists, all of its great economists, all of its great writers, only because they couldn't deal with the fact that these people are either quality or it's the success for Germany or democratic Germany serves their interest, quote. So these people don't like the fact, not that America's a world, they think America could be a world hegemonic force without the Middle East. They're basically stupid. And they think America can control militarily the Middle East without a dependable ally like Israel, which is also stupid. It doesn't mean America needs Israel. No. It means that it's easier to work with Israel. If America had 2, 3 more Israels in the Middle East, there probably wouldn't be too many conflicts in the Middle East. Israel is the country that sucks in the rockets. If there wouldn't be an Israel, the Iranians and Iraqis have been killing each other. They killed 1 million of each other in the Iran-Iraq war. Assad killed 600,000 of his people. Egypt slaughtered tens of thousands of its people in like 3 civil wars. Silent civil wars in the last 80 years. Kuwait had a war. Yemen has a war. People don't understand that what we need is happening in the most war-torn place. And our ability to control the most war-torn place is with the aid of a country called Israel that is also an object to a lot of hate. This doesn't mean that these countries can make peace with Israel. Egypt made peace with Israel. Jordan made peace with Israel. Morocco made peace with Israel. UAE made peace with Israel. Bahrain, Sudan, now Somaliland, and the list goes on because they're also starting to realize that hating Israel doesn't give them more food on the table, doesn't make their universities excel. It's just stupid. So this goes back, just to conclude, to why Tucker loves Islam. Tucker likes Islam because it's a gang-like tribal form of rule. And he wants to turn himself into an elitist in America by claiming that the Jews are some gang that controls America. So now we need to build another gang to outsource the Jewish gang so that we can help the people. But this is the same idea that has been used for 2,000 years for political consolidation. Anti-Semitism is not about theology necessarily always, and it's not about biology always. It's about the consolidation of power. And it's a very elegant method to create consolidation. Because once you signal the Jews as a gang, then you basically say, all bets are on the table. It's okay to rule as a gang. Actually, there's no other chance but to rule as a gang. So if a gang must rule, let it not be the gang of the evil Jews, right? That's what they say, right? So I'm saying, okay, that is insane. That makes no sense. That's anti-Republican. That's anti-biblical. That's anti-ethical. I'm a Lockean. I'm a classical liberal. I'm socially and politically and culturally more conservative, but I don't think that Lockean liberal philosophy necessarily leads to degeneration. That being said, these people do, and they say that the Jews are the gang that does that the Jews created degeneration. So what happens is they synthesize that idea with the hatred of the Muslims to basically say the Jews are not only trying to destroy America insanely, the Jews are also trying to sow war in the Middle East, also insanely. So look how the Jewish cultural, quote, Marxism, right, and Jewish militarism in Israel, right, how the left and the right of the Jews coincide. Yeah, that's obviously Hitlerian and a little weird. I personally, as a more conservative Jew, dislike Marxists, and especially Jewish Marxists, and I especially dislike Jewish Marxists because I'm a Jew. But this doesn't mean there's just some gang-like conspiracy, and that's why Tucker loves Islam, because Islam, just like Noam Chomsky, that's why Noam Chomsky loves Islam, because they're too elitist. The woke movements are Gnostic and elitist, and as Gnostic elitists, they always need a competitor. And it could be colonialist, it could be Zionist, it could be some demiurge. And the Jewish demiurge is very satisfying because it already comes with an innate political structure and program that it validates. As I mentioned, once the Jews are a gang that controls and there's a conspiracy, then it's kosher for us to make a counter-conspiracy. But then, as happens in China and Germany and Russia, and all these evil regimes, what happens is the gang that overtakes power doesn't now turn it into some heavenly Jeffersonian republic. So that's why Chomsky and Tucker love Islam. They love Islam because they're trying to globally legitimize gang rule. Okay? So they're feudal. They're feudal, basically. Now, we united together against the globalists because obviously, globalism was a real phenomena, and global corporatism was a real phenomena, especially when it intersected with COVID. But once that was gone, suddenly you got the Jews, which to me doesn't really make sense. But if that's the way you want, and even when you had the globalists, the power that the globalists had still wasn't 100% so strong that it took under it the classical petrodollar structure, or the classical big pharma structure, or the classical big narco, the narco dollar, which is also a big part of the system. So people need to start looking at the mechanisms of capital and the mechanisms of power, and not the gangs that try to control, because the mechanisms stay in line. So was COVID a reset? I mean, that's a good question. It was definitely some form of a psychological reset, but from a geopolitical, geoeconomic, geostrategic, the old structures are still in power. And that is because they serve the American empire. Now, when you ask, does the stuff that happened inside America serve America? That's a good question, and I'm willing to discuss that with even Nick Fuentes, no problem. But that has nothing to do with Iraq or Iran or any of that. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war didn't have repercussions back home. Of course they did, and meaningful ones, and mostly negative ones. But it pales in comparison of what's at stake in the game, with all due respect to the service of our countrymen.
Which you say basically is the continuation of the system itself.
Exactly. We need, look, I don't know, some people are into wars, like, a lot of people like to talk about Lindsey Graham being crazy, war guy, and how he loves war, and the guy from Texas, Crenshaw. I mean, I'm not for war, but if an Iranian regime that tries to, become the hegemon in the Middle East, calls death to America and tries to reach nuclear capabilities, then, it's time for them to die. There's no way to mitigate the situation.
Yeah, that I can actually very much, of course, relate to, because
you want to give up.
It seems like
you want to give up the American empire. I got you, but you are also exposing yourself to being attacked by these crazy mullahs. You say, "Oh, they're rational. North Korea never attacked us." You know what? Trump was close to war with North Korea, and the fact that one cancer didn't kill you doesn't mean you want another cancer. It doesn't mean you're going to reconceptualize your concepts of cancer. And also, with all due respect, I mean, definitely Japan is as important as the Middle East for American hegemony, but the Middle East is probably even more important because it controls China too.
Can you elaborate on what it means that it controls China? Is it because of the resources?
Because about
China gets from Iran?
About 75%, I believe, to 70 maybe percent, Chinese oil is in the Middle East. Now, America likes oil because, first of all, oil is more economic, and better to use for industry. But it enables America to create equations of geostrategic, geopolitical scenarios. It allows us to play the chessboard. We know what Russia has. We know Russia has oil. The war in Ukraine is a good thing for us, by the way, too. If you want to look at it, I mean, cynically. It's a good thing for us.
I've heard that argument often. Maybe you
I
can.
mean, it's very good. I mean, Putin may have fallen right into an American trap. It's sad. It's unfortunate. And I think Trump understands that at this point, and that's why the war goes on. But yeah, the oil economy, the global oil economy, serves America. That's why Trump doesn't like the green and the windmills killing the birds.
You say
Because if the world is oil, then we control the world.
Affection to birds.
If the world is run by oil, then we control the world. Because oil is paid for with dollars. So we control the value of the world. So, maybe the petrodollar is the Jewish, that's what Tucker Carlson would say.
Yeah, now that's a Jewish conspiracy
as
well now?
That should be his next, if he had any brains, if he was actually smart, that's what he would say.
Probably the biggest oil providers, are they run by Jewish people? Otherwise, he would have already said something, probably, no?
They're usually run by Texans and Arabs, but and Russians and yeah, but if he had a functioning mind, he's just a lost, a lost person, what we Jews call the forbidden word, goy, right? Which we are goyim too, you and I, but we're goy kadosh. He's also a goy, and we're a goy. We're just a different goy. He's just a lost Gentile.
I've really enjoyed.
Now you could say that he has this idea. He's blocked. He's frustrated. If he goes into the political sphere, he discovers nothing is really controlled by the Jews because the petrodollar and narco-dollar are literally have nothing to do with Jews, nor does China, nor does Russia, nor does the Pentagon, controlled by some Jewish gangs. Then if he goes, he could say Hollywood has a lot of Jews, sure, but they're mostly anti-Jewish Jews, so I don't understand that. Oh, but then he could say maybe that's some camouflage. Well, they're doing it very well because Israel's losing a lot of support in Hollywood. And it did have support until the 80s, 70s maybe. So that is kind of weird. Meanwhile, you can also say that he's lost theologically because he owes his religion to a Jewish man. So theologically he's stuck, culturally he's stuck, politically he's stuck. He's like a mouse trying to escape this matrix where he sees Jews in every corner because in his archetypical subconscious, he knows that there are two wings of civilization, the Greeks and the Jews. The Greeks make yogurt, and the Jews have nuclear weapons based on foreign reports. So who's he gonna be? Is angry at his Greek father? No. So he's angry at his Jewish father. Nobody's angry at the Greek father because the Greek father's making yogurt and has nice hotels in the beach and kisses statues or something. Nobody cares about the Greeks. They're good. If they're good, bad people, I've been there. It's a nice country. Highly recommend it. So he wants to kill the father. So there's two fathers to Christian civilization, a Jewish father and a Greek father. The Greek father took his head down to Christianity. The Jewish father stands proud and tall, and he doesn't like this. Not only does the Jewish father stand proud and tall, he works with the greatest Christian empire in history, which is America. Because America is basically a Christian country. I mean,
it's kind of funny to hear you say it's basically a Christian country, you know?
It's basically because why basically is funny?
I don't know if it's fun, if funny it's the right word, but because like I'd say that traditionally, or if you ask most people in the world, yeah, they would say that America is
Look,
Christian.
I tell you why America is a Christian country. It's a Christian country in a little of an intricate way. It's a Christian country because the founding fathers were all deists. They all believed in God. Some of them adhered to Unitarianism, some of them adhered to Presbyterianism, others adhered to congregational Christianity more, others adhered to more Anglican, I think Episcopalian as well, I don't know. Yeah, pretty much. Later, more Methodist, but these are all people who got acquainted with universal, humanistic, monotheistic transcendency, which is basically monotheism based on the Old Testament. They got acquainted with this based on their Christian education. And most people who know God in this country know Him based on their Christian faith. They don't know this because they were Jews. Jews are like 1.5% in the country. So it's Christian by origin that the people who got familiar with God, and this is a nation that believes in God, thank God, have done this based on their Christian heritage. Does this mean that the Christian heritage manifests itself in a political fashion? Not always, because we believe it's a Protestant country, believes in separation of church and state. So it's basically a Christian country. But it's not a Christian to the effect that it has to do with anything of holding office, or that the federal system is run by Christianity. Which I guess some people don't like this fact. And I can understand why they don't like this fact. But it's a problem, because once you make the country a religion, then you impose belief systems on other people, and that's a problem. See, in Israel, it's a Jewish country, but Muslims have their own Muslim systems, and Christians have their own Christian system. If the federal government wants to say, we are Christian, and then give autonomous systems to the Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim minorities in America, that's an interesting proposition. I'm not saying I support it, but maybe it's a good idea. By the way, I think in Israel, maybe they should separate church and state in Israel. I'm not wholly... Sorry, I've been ranting a little. Next time, we'll do it.
You're doing a great job, and yeah, you're right. It can actually be like a very interesting topic for one of the episodes. Although I do think that maybe the topic I'll be most curious to talk to you about in hopefully future streams that we will do is really the Christian question within America and maybe within the West as a whole.
Yes. Yes, I think the Christian question is a question that needs to be dealing. I think the rise of the woke right, there's a reason why they rise. There's a reason why they gain popularity. It's not all Pakistani verge bots. There's more to this. And I think part of the reason that they gain popularity is that the Christian question is a very good question. And it goes back to the fundamental period of the 16th, 17th century, which is the first two waves of the Reformation, into the late 17th century, which is the erection of states that are for the first time, or communes that are for the first time, free from religious coercions, especially in the colonies. Rhode Island specifically, and later obviously France and the entire United States, and later England, of course. To England actually not, but at least England not formally, but yes politically. Okay, England is still a Christian country. Anyway, I mean, right, it's a funny thing to say, but it is. Obviously then throughout all Europe, which is basically secularization. And then there's the question of this secularization's influence on the Catholics. And I think the Christian question really starts in the intersection between the Catholics, who were shocked by secularism, and the Protestants, who managed to absorb and actually contain secularism. And then these two questions intersected in the 21st century under the influence of Marxism and just general reduction in church attendance and spreading of atheism. And I think these two questions that were never really dealt with before World War I and World War II, the question of let's define them. The nature of the Christian religion between post-Reformation ideas and pre-Reformation ideas, and B, how these are utilized within a state structure, which is the question that came in the 18th, 19th century, and C, how these questions are utilized in the age of Hegelian philosophy, which is Marxism, fascism, and whatnot, and then D, how they manifest in the world today in a post-secular society. I call it post-secular. And for that, we need to go back to the roots. We need to ask, what is Jesus? Who is Jesus? What's the meaning of Jesus? And I think everybody offers their own interpretation. And I think this is what angers everybody about the Christian Zionists so much, everybody. I mean, the woke Reich, that, they give an answer, and these Catholics, a lot of them don't like this answer. The neo-Catholics, the radical Catholics, obviously, they also represent a small fraction, maybe. So yeah, it's a multifaceted question, and obviously it has many historical turns from, Nostra Aetate, 1965, the Vatican stops becoming officially anti-Semitic, and then the State of Israel, which really shocks the traditional wing of the Catholic Church, not necessarily in a good way, and the American Alliance, and secularism, and all these very complex topics can be very easily reduced using the archetype of the Jew as some camouflage demon child sacrificer. But it's stupid, because the Christians have to have a serious conversation about Christianity. And I as a Jew, humbly offer to be the mediator, because I have no vested interest in any of them. Especially after 1965, the Vatican is not officially anti-Semitic. I don't mind, that's okay. I'm offering myself to bridge the gap. And I'm also offering an authentic perspective about Jesus, of course. I think, not only as a scholar, but as a Levi, as a son of Levi, my father, my tribal ancestral father. And I am the brother of Jesus, because I am the remnant of Jesus. A lot of people, they do the communion and the Eucharist and this, and they consume this thing they believe to be representative or real to the blood and flesh of Jesus. And I say, come and see me. I am also the blood of Jesus. I am also the flesh of Jesus. And he is my family. And I think that Jews should also have a more tolerant perspective of Christianity. And I think Christians should have a more tolerant perspective of the Jews. And I think together we could reach great places like this. And I think that a lot of people believe Zionism is bad because it means that the Jews don't need Christians, or if they do need Christians now, they'll do it as users. I don't agree. I think the concept of Judeo-Christian may have been early pushed. I think it's a real concept. I like it, but I think it needs to be a little more sharpened. We need to sharpen. The Judeo and Christian are different things. We have to admit this. And in order to create a holistic Judeo-Christian, we need to somehow have these conversations that surpass our own theological convictions. Questions about the nature of religion and the nature of faith and the nature of providence and the purpose of man and the purpose of life and the purpose of providence and the calling of the intersection between politics and theology, and really share with each other perspectives. The Jews learn a lot from America. America learned a lot from the Jews. And when I say the Jews in this context, I actually mean Israel. You know, Israel is not so Jewish. I mean, only 70% of Israel is Jewish, you know. 30% of Israel is not Jewish. But I think Israel admires America. It learned a lot from America. And I think America also admired the pioneer spirit of Israel, which reminds America of its, you know, pioneering roots. And I think just like Israel is rooted in the Bible, America is rooted in the Bible. All you need to do is read Thomas Paine's Common Sense to see this. And see the people, Washington, Jefferson, Hamilton, all very biblical people. I always say the founding fathers are the greatest generation the world known, other than the generation of the Exodus and conquering, probably from a political. I don't read souls, so I don't know if the souls were as big as the souls of the time of the Second Temple. I would say no, because I'm a Jew and I believe God chose the Jewish people to be the light in the world. But I think that a lot of the nations and the Christian nations can teach us so much, and we need to humble ourselves to them in a way of a friendship. And, you know, I see a lot of people, they don't like this idea of chosenness of the Jews. They need to understand that the chosenness of the Jews is not means I'm better than you or greater than you. It just means I have a different part in a different calling in the world. And this is not me saying, this is God. But yes, when I say that the founding fathers are like, from a political philosophy perspective, together with Moses and the judges and maybe the Sanhedrin, I totally, politically, philosophically, John Locke can shake Moses' hand, you know. John Locke, Thomas Jefferson, they're worthy of shaking Moses' hand easily. Absolutely. So I think the descendants of both have a lot to learn from each other. It's only natural, you know.
That was fascinating, Yair, I must say.
Yes.
Really appreciate all of what you've shared here. I can listen to this one several times myself.
Yes, but what did the old Catholic Church? Again, I'm saying old Catholic Church. I think most of my friends in America, most of the people I know are Catholics. But the old Catholic doctrine, it said we don't need Moses and we don't need John Locke. And I say we do need Moses and we do need John Locke. Now the question is John Locke feasible? That's the question that Yoram Chazoni is asking, I think. Look, I think with a good immigration policy, a protective immigration policy, a less federalized government policy, less Marxism in academia, it's possible. And look, I think we should also criticize sometimes the Jews. You know, so you read my articles, some of my work, you see people read my work. I can write for 5 minutes about the arguments of the biggest anti-Semites. And I could find their logic and I could look for their logic, try to understand their perspective. And so the fact that somebody's an anti-Semite doesn't mean he's wrong about everything, you know? You have anti-Semites who are brilliant. And I think part of the cultural critique of the
You're getting a bit cut off there, Yair, after you said cultural critique. I'm not hearing you since. I don't know if you're trying to speak, Yair. I haven't been hearing you the past like 20 seconds or so. If you hear me, maybe you can try.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back
Hello?
now.
Yeah, the problem with the woke
Yeah,
right is because they're gnostic, and because their version of Christianity is focused on Jews as sinners and victimizers. Then they search for the Gnostic Jew, the demiurge Jew, as some sort of reductive function in every philosophical argument or political argument they make. Because they add three different variants. They say the Jews are successful, the Jews engineered moral, political, universal, transcendent, humanistic morals, and the Jews have disproportionate success. And there's Jews in places of power. And the society is crumbling because they always think bad. So it must be, I mean, it's like some soup. It's a soup. And if you don't like Jews, and you single out Jews everywhere, I mean, then yes, it serves your purpose. And again, I think the problem is there's emptiness. A lot of Christians feel emptiness. And they want to feel something real. And this hating of the Jew, it gives them something to feel about. Real, like they're on this crusade. They're like Spartacus. Nick Fuentes is their Spartacus. We are slaves to the Jews. Jesus was a slave to the Jews. We are a slave to the Jews. We're reenacting his passion by seeing us. How the hell can 1.5 billion Catholics and 1.3 billion Protestants and another 200, 300 million Orthodox, how the hell could they be enslaved to 14 million Jews? So in order to create this paradigm or equation of enslavement, they need the conspiracy. The conspiracy is here for so many reasons, but one more reason is that the mathematical improbability of 15 million people, 14, 15, whatever you say. Some people say 15.5 million people to enslave 3 billion people. So in order to explain this, you have to go beyond the scenes and see that actually, I mean, guys, please. The Jews went through like 10 Arab-Israeli wars, a Holocaust. The 1920s, they killed like 250,000 of us in Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine. Peasants, all Jewish peasants. What the heck are these people talking about? If we control the world, how are we always being killed? They say, oh, there's no... Because we understand as you control the world, we kill you. But if we controlled it, you wouldn't be able to kill us. It's sick. It's a mental disease. And unfortunately, it prevents them from looking inside and seeking the emptiness that they feel in the age of secularism. So what they do is they have all these edgy trends, trad wife, trad con, trad. This is like, it's as empty as a little statue of a deity you believe is real. It's bullshit. It's like it's bowing down to statues. It's bowing down to representations that are not real anymore. There is no trad con after feminism. You know? There is no trad wife after feminism. There is no trad wife after no-fault divorce, with all due respect. There is no trad con after the gender differences in bank accounts in the United States. You want to start, there's this white guy. People don't like him. He starts a white-only village in Georgia, in Arkansas. You see this guy?
Yeah, I actually know who you're talking about. I saw him.
Dude, I have no problem with this guy.
Yeah, Arvol. His name is Arvol.
Dude, this guy, look, I'm not his biggest fan, but I have no problem with this. He believes he has this culture. Good for you. Good on you, bro.
Yeah, actually, I tend to agree. Like, why shouldn't he be able to?
Okay, you know what? You don't listen. You don't want to open your village to Jews or blacks. I also don't want to open my, I don't know, Jewish high school, using an example, to non-Jews. Good for you. You're upset that the Jewish race is this and that as a race. In Jewish race is open. You can be black, white, Chinese, convert to our race. Yeah, become a Jew, no problem. But a lot of people try to do this, and a lot of people do this. But you say no. You white. Okay, respect. That's what you believe. Like you say, you black. Okay. You want to judge yourself based on a color? Okay, I respect your right to do this. And, I think there are bigger things to unite more than skin color. But if this is your idea, I don't think the ADL should do stuff against you. And I saw the ADL went against this guy. And I said, excuse me, ADL, don't we have bigger problems? I mean, this guy is a racist, obviously. Okay. It's still legal to be racist in America. What can you do?
Thank God,
You want to be a racist. Okay. Be a racist. The ADL doesn't understand that the fact that it's not nice to be a racist doesn't make it illegal. The fact that it's not nice to be a racist doesn't mean that you need to, chase this man in Arkansas. Are there any Jews in Arkansas? Very little. Very little. Is this guy persecuting Jewish people? I don't think so. Is he persecuting black people? I don't think so. Does he say that blacks and Jews are bad? Maybe. Maybe he does. Maybe he does.
I don't think he says that, from what I've heard, he didn't.
And even if he does, he's allowed to.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, guys, ADL guys, you're traumatized by Europe, but you're trying to turn these people into slaves of you like we were slaves in Europe. It doesn't mean that this guy is as innocent as a Jewish child in the Lodz ghetto. But he didn't do anything that I know to anybody, so leave him alone. You want to go meet him. Also, why don't you meet him? Why don't you meet this man? Talk to him. Listen to him. Nick Fuentes, I don't know if I would talk. I once invited him to interview 10 months ago for my website that I work for. Now I think he's crazy. It's not that 10 months ago I didn't think he's crazy. But I thought maybe we can have an intelligent conversation. I don't think Nick Fuentes would understand some of the things I'm talking about. He's a good speaker, but I don't think he has the bandwidth to understand the crisis of Christian theology, I don't think he has the bandwidth to understand the crisis of secularism. He's self-taught, okay. He doesn't have a college degree, okay. Doesn't mean he's not smart. You don't need a college degree to understand the things I'm talking about. I don't think he's an earnest. He's an earnest actor. I don't think he's an honest actor. Sometimes he gives these compliments. Oh, the Jews are smart. The Jews are this. Okay, yeah, we really needed your affirmation here, but you don't understand what being Jewish is. I don't know if you your idea of Christianity is basically medieval Spain. You're like a pagan in a way. I don't know what to say. Some weird fusion of pagan and neo-Catholic and just fascism, and it's like it is the slope. I mean, that is the slope. He talks about greater Israel. Dude, come on. How many people, you were in Israel, I was in Israel. How many people believe in the greater Israel and will fight for this greater Israel? And will go to wars with it? 10%, 5%? Give me a break. You're mentally ill. He thinks Likud is greater Israel. This guy, it's like saying Trump is a transgender. This guy's stupid. The basic facts he doesn't know. The people are stupid. Tucker Carlson talking about India. Nick Fuentes talking about greater Israel. Candace Owens talking about Khazar Jews. These people are, I don't know, I think we got to help them, and I don't think that white boy in Arkansas should suffer because of this.
I tend to agree with the vast majority of what you've shared here, Yair, and I really appreciate your...
we can't lose tolerance. We can't lose tolerance.
I agree. I actually must say that with Nick Fuentes, I actually think that there is he's very much blocked into some things, but I do think that he's not really that dumb, in my opinion. I don't really buy that.
I never said that he's dumb.
No, I'm not saying
he's dumb.
I'm saying that, some people, they dismiss him as... I don't know. He's very different than some of the others.
He's not. Look, his problem is he talks like he's a big, smart guy, but he's not a scholar. He doesn't understand the challenges that are in the context of everything he talks about. Also, Ben Shapiro and Mark Levine, they're very intelligent men, higher intelligent than Fuentes for sure, and much higher. And they also don't speak about the root of the crisis that created the woke right. I'm sorry. You need also a continental lens to understand it. I don't think anybody thinks Fuentes is dumb. So that's not what I said, yes?
No, I didn't say that you say that. I didn't mean that. I mean about some of the things that I'm hearing. And I also think that he's kind of different than some of the other people mentioned. Surely Candace and stuff like that. And by the way, you can see that...
No, he's not. He's not. No, I'll tell you what, he uses the same strawman arguments. It's true that he doesn't go into these crazy strawman argument. He doesn't go into the fantasy. But if you analyze the logic of his sentences, you will see that there is always an axiom. There's always a maxim to his sentence. And for example, he says, Netanyahu controls Bibi and Netanyahu controls Trump. This is the maxim. Now he will explain to you a million ways how this happens. Or Israel, Epstein is Mossad. Epstein is obviously CIA, but he will go, and it's like, wait, let's check the facts. So he can take a concept, he has conceptual power. He can take a concept and he can understand the meaning and context of the concept and make very good arguments. But it doesn't mean that the concept that he contextualizes and creates elaborative discourse of meaning around it that is actually based in facts from a phenomenological perspective, from a phenomena perspective. And that is why maybe he's good in math or something, I don't know, but
That's really interesting. And to be honest, I actually think he's very good at...
He feeds a lot on the other anti-Semitism that Candace and Tucker have, and he somehow shows like he's the rational agent because he is a little tighter than them in his framing, more eloquent than him. But the factual phenomenological premise in all of these people is not precise. And it's not precise enough to render it from an analytical perspective sound.
I definitely hope that we'll get to talk about all that and more in the future. Yair,
Yes.
I should be wrapping up myself. I do
Yes.
want to thank you so much for your time and input here. I really
you.
enjoyed it. I hope people saw
We'll
it
talk
is
soon.
useful. Where should people follow you, Yair, by the way, if they want to
Just
see
Jfeed, jfeed.com. Jfeed, jfeed.com.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining me. It was my honor, and talk to you soon, hopefully. Amen.
God bless you, my friend.
Amen.
God bless you. Bye.